I haven't heard your response to this question, so I'm going to ask you: are you going to move back to the APC?
I'm a PDP member,
Okay.
and but I'm supporting the candidacy. I mean, I'm supporting the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But if my support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gets to a point where PDP can no longer accommodate me being a member and yet supporting Tinubu, I might decide probably to join APC,
All right.
because
Fantastic.
that's the party where I belong for 8 years and advocated for, and that my understanding is that political parties are merely platforms. There are no marked ideological difference between those political parties. Almost all political parties in Nigeria, what they call ideology, are some of those constitutions of Chapter 2 of the Constitution, who provides for directive principles of state policy, like social welfare, security, economic prosperity, and the rest. There is no particular program that you can say APC believes in and PDP does not believe in, or APC advocates that PDP does not do. It won't, like in America, where if you talk about the Republican, people know the ideologies of the Republican Party and the things that are promoted by the Republican Party. For example, the Republican Party promotes the sovereignty of America. They hate the idea of too much taxation and overregulation of the economy. They don't like the idea of interventions and interventions. They, in fact, as a matter of fact, promote this what they call free market economy, capitalism, to a point where they don't care. In fact, the more money you make in America, that you should be less taxed. If you come to the Democrats, that's not how they look at it. They believe that Americans should all grow together. And if you have a very rich society with a very poor society, you have to help the poor ones to come up. They believe in giving over-regulation, of the economy. They believe also in taxing the people. They believe in certain social system that the Republicans do not, like, for example, gay rights and some of those things. So once you say you are a Republican and you're moving from the Republican Party to Democratic Party, people tend to ask, what fundamentally changed in your ideology that you are swapping? Oftentimes, people equate that with Nigeria. People should stop that. There is no marked difference in Nigeria. I even asked a friend of mine who asked me the question. He said, so you're moving from, I haven't moved yet, but that's the conclusion. You're moving from PDP to APC. What changed in terms of ideology? I asked him, you are in talks for merger, and each of the political parties in talks for merger have their own ideologies, right? He said, yes. I said, when you finally form the merger, which ideology are you picking and which one are you dropping? He couldn't answer me. I said, that's the point. Political parties are platforms. People use those platforms to acquire power, so that they hope that when they get to power, they will bring about their vision, for the Nigerian people. And so we should come out of that myth and mundane conversation and go into issues of governance and how we look at it. Do you believe in this? Do you not believe it? Why do you believe in this? Okay, this place that you're supporting, this and this and this happening. What do you have to say about it?
Interesting.
These are the things I think we should, put conversation on. Go ahead.
Very interesting. A thought by you. I think you know better because you've had a taste of both parties. I'm not going to be a card carrying member of the APC and being a card carrying member of the PDP, as opposed to people who may have not even been members of any party, just supporters from a distance. So you're speaking from experience. Does Nigeria need such a polity? You've so eloquently explained, given us what the American the ideological differences between the Democrats and Republicans in American politics is. Do we need such ideological politics in Nigeria where Party A's ideology will be marked and different, and we know what it is from Party B? That's something that will be good for Nigerian politics.
Obviously, political party and processes is built in that from the foundation, that each political party will not just have a certain goal and objective, but they must have ideology that they base all their policies on. When we got independent and then the political parties started forming, I can tell you that at the beginning, political parties were ideologically driven. If you look at, for example, the NPN, you look at the UPN, you look at the NPN, UNPP, and the rest, you will see that they had to a certain degree, not in full maturation, but it's a certain degree, certain ideologies that they base on. But from 1999, I must be honest with you, since when this republic returned as a fourth republic, in each of those political parties, there were not ideological differences. For example, PDP also did You Win, which are some of those social interventions. APC is doing social interventions. PDP believe in the economy. they believe in private sector participation in the economy. APC believe in the same. The APC is approaching private sector, asking them to do. So there is no marked difference. If you say I'm a PDP member, other than somebody thinking you associate with group of people in PDP, nobody can tell you, oh, maybe this person has moved to PDP because certain ideological perspective of that party attracted him. And then the ball players, if you look at it, they all have moved from one party to the other, and they will continue doing the movement. So in a nutshell, we need it, but we haven't grown to that point. And I can understand why it is like that.
How do we get there?
Yes, how we get that first is that we must bring our population out of poverty to a certain level where they can have their sense of judgment, reasoning without influence. Because what we are seeing in Nigeria today is the politicization of poverty, right? The weaponization of poverty. And so people don't hold up to what they believe in or what they are convinced about. In terms of those ball players, I'm talking about ball players who move. And so the population, usually they vote for the people based on sentiment, unfortunately. If you look at the generality of Nigerians, when they say we are voting for this person, they will either say because he comes from the north, where northerners were supporting, or he comes from the south, where southerners were supporting. A good example, when Labour Party came up, it started at the beginning from the perspective that it is a movement of young people and Nigerians who are not satisfied with the status quo. That was when it peaked, and it peaked with enough energy. And it was meant to be that third party, the outsider, that would shake the status quo. As the campaign went on, certain element hijacked it and made it about agitation for a part of the country that had not access power. You understand? And so it got to a point where those who began this movement, who were not looking at any of these consideration, started pulling away. Wait a minute. And the engagement was largely on social media. So how we'll get about it, one is that we must all pull through, right? And get our people to a point out of poverty where they have their sense of judgment, sense of reasonability, and sense of decision. Then we can build upon that. There are some theories that will tell you we can get to that by the ball players. Now, those who participate in political process, building it by themselves. Right. So, for example, I've read the manifesto of APC through and through. I read the manifesto of PDP through and through. There was a time I even participated in remodeling the manifesto of SDP, right? If you look at SDP and NRC then, SDP was considered as a progressive party, just like the American Democratic Party.
Are you talking about SDP of Abiola or this current one?
Yes, SDP of Abiola.
All right.
And NRC of Bashir Tofa.
All right.
You know, in those days, the NRC was considered like the Republican, because if you look at NRC then, they believe more on private sector participation in the economy. In fact, not just private sector participation, but private sector-led economy. So an economy where you have less of government intervention, less of government participation, and you have more private sector dictating the economic direction. While the SDP was considered as a party of letters. That's why all of Abiola's campaign, you see, is about social interventions and all of that. But that melted away. Because from 1999 till today, you hardly can point at a particular program, because now ABC and PDP have had the chance to go on. You will be able to assess. You cannot say, okay, during PDP, this was the economic policy they pursued, which was, connected to the ideology that APC is not, departing from. It is copy and paste. That's what's basically happening. And all of these things that they are doing are in Chapter 2. If you look at Chapter 2 of the Constitution, it's a directive principles of social, state policy, which talks about certain rights that are not justiciable. Like, for example, right to education, right to this, right to that, social security, which in other countries, they have made it justiciable. You can enforce it in law. But in Nigeria, you can't enforce it in law. So these are basically the issues.